I'm looking forward to see how Kyle Tucker plays, and this is going into what the chat is saying. There's some back and forth about Kyle Tucker, like the good, the bad, like the trade. Cam Smith lighting it up in spring training.
A lot of spring stats in the chat right now.
Yeah, a lot of spring stats. Listen, Kyle Tucker is far and away the best player on the Chicago Cubs. Full stop. He is the best player, and he will be the best player on this team. I have no doubt. And if he's not, then I have some serious concerns. And then, yes, we can talk about the Cam Smith trade. Do I want to talk about the Cam Smith trade? No, I really don't. I promise you. I really don't. Because I would love for that trade to just be a win-win for both. Cam Smith go on, be great. The Cubs extend Kyle Tucker sometime in the season, or if he goes to free agency and you win a bidding war for him, right? That's a best case scenario for me because I'm not going to root against Cam Smith. I think he's going to be awesome. All right. I watched him hit all those homers in low A or whatever it was last year. Right. But it will all come down to whether it's in season and he loves Chicago and he decides to skip free agency, which no one believes will happen. Luke clearly doesn't. I don't really think it's going to happen.
I don't.
A guy like me can get real delulu and hope, pray a little bit. I'll get on my knees in front of the marquee and pray. All right. I'll send emails to Tom if that's what it's going to take. Right. So it's most likely going to go to December, free agency, winter meetings. Me and Luke be sitting in the studio breaking down every single day. Day one, Kyle Tucker being a free agent. Day two of Kyle Tucker being a free agent, hasn't been signed by the Cubs. It will be absolutely exhausting. I promise you, it will be because I'm already exhausted. So the point of this little tangent that I'm going on is just enjoy that Kyle Tucker is here for right now.
That's fair.
It is March, and they haven't even played a game yet.
It's all we have.
All right?
It might be 1 year, might be all we have.
Right.
So enjoy every at-bat.
For right now, at least, just enjoy it. Just enjoy it right now. That's all I'm asking. Just enjoy the fact that you have a top 20 player in baseball on your team. Thank you. Anyway.
Very, very excited to see if he hits like 200 in April, that Cubs fans will be like, he's worth 150 million. Yeah. And then when he hits 350 in June, he'll be worth 700 million. The swings and the money is going to be really fun. It's almost like a Schwano meter.
That's when you're like, extend him when he's hitting 200.
That should be the Friday 120 Club sign. What he's worth this week.
I don't think the Cubs would like that.
I don't think they'd like it either. What Cody's saying basically is it's like having the best birthday cake and being mad that you can't have that best birthday cake every year.
Yeah.
But that's what we want.
And I totally understand anyone who has the anxiety about that whole situation because I'm right there with you. But I'm trying to be in the moment and I'm trying to enjoy what should be a fun season. That's all I'm really trying to say. If you want to be pessimistic about the Cubs extending Kyle Tucker, or maybe he's just not that good, which if you look at the numbers, I don't know why anyone would think that he isn't good. Maybe he won't hit as well as at Wrigley Field as he did Minute Maid Park or whatever it's called these days. I don't know. We're all going to watch it play out. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're not the only ones who think he's a top 20 player in baseball. You could look at all the lists that all the big national talking heads are putting out there about Kyle Tucker. All right. So based off what I've seen, and you look at his Fangraphs or Baseball Reference page, this guy has been an absolute stud for the last 5 years. And I'm excited to watch him play at beautiful, historic Wrigley Field in the white home pinstripe unis. Throw on the little legendary blue alternates. And for God's sakes, Tom, bring the regular alternate blues with the white pinstripe uniforms that they've been wearing in the spring. Bring them back to Wrigley.
Boy, we got off on a tangent.
I did not mean to go on this tangent. I'm just like, I'm trying to tell people to enjoy what we have in Kyle Tucker, because outside of Chris Bryant, there hasn't been as good of a player in the last 10 years.
And don't ever run out of a chocolate malt. They ran out of soft serve once last year at our takeover, and I was not happy. Soft serve machines were down. Somebody in the chat, go back like one more full page. Somebody was talking about the CBA with it started with Luke, and here it is, Terry E. Tom wants to get to the CBA. He's praying for a salary cap and an international draft. He's not going to sign a big deal right now because he doesn't want to get stuck with a mega deal right now. So again, Britton is throwing out these numbers, and he's not saying it's a fair deal. This is what he's calculated. $366.5 if he were to sign an extension right now for 11 years. Here's why I'm saying there's a 0.00000000000000000% chance this is happening, okay? The Cubs' most expensive contract ever right now is still Jason Hayward, 8 for $184 in total money. 184, that's 10 years ago. 10 years ago, they signed their total money highest at $184 million. Do you know in baseball history, the Cubs are not even in the top 40 of total money deals? They don't even have a deal in that. Hayward doesn't even make the top 40 most expensive deals in baseball history. 41 more before you get to Jason Hayward's deal. 28 more for AAV if you're talking about Dansby. Okay? Dansby at 25.2 AAV for $177 million. The Cubs haven't touched $200 million yet. Kyle Tucker's going to make way more than $200 million, and he's not going to settle for that now. So both parts of it I find totally unrealistic. The 11 years, when it happens, I'll believe it.
Yeah.
They've never gone above 8, which they did for Hayward, and they probably still regret it.
Can I
and
play?
They've never gone above 200, which the 8 part, okay, I can make an argument for it if you really want to. The $200 million part, it's time to step up and play ball with the big boys.
Sure. Can I play devil's advocate?
Sure.
With you?
Sure.
Against you, I guess?
And my facts might not even be right. I'm just throwing them out there.
What have we always said about Jed Hoyer? That he's like risk averse. And
yes, and I don't even think this is a Jed thing.
Well, no, this is definitely an ownership thing, right? But Jed makes this trade, and I said this back in December, that he would not make this trade if he didn't think that they would have it, that they wouldn't try. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's been so risk averse the majority of his time with the Chicago Cubs as president of baseball ops, and so much to where it's been annoying in many ways because they've passed on so many dudes. They haven't traded guys early enough. You've liked to bring that up many times, right? If Jed Hoyer made this move, just I guess in many ways to quote unquote save his job or to go all in for 1 year, it just isn't the Jed Hoyer that I have grown to be very frustrated with over the last 5 years or 4 years, whatever. It just isn't a Jed move. He clearly, they took him in the first round. They loved Cam Smith, right? They made the trade for Paredes, all this. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just putting out the other side of the spectrum of, does Jed Hoyer make this trade if he doesn't think that they're not going to be in the bidding war for him in December? And all things historically, the last 5 years point to no, they won't. But the team organizationally, all across the board, is in a complete different spot than in 2019. So I'm just saying, for the sake of conversation, that this is what's giving me some sort of hope that there is a world where this happens down the road, because I just don't think Jed Hoyer would have made this move. He's never operated in a way to save his job. He's never done anything like that. So I stand by what I said in December, and if it goes the way that we're all fearful of, I will be the first one to say I was wrong, and I will be the first one to sit here and for sure hammer down my frustration with this ownership group and everything. I promise you. But that's what's given me some sort of hope that they will get something done down the road. I understand the whole CBA thing that Terry mentioned in the chat. Absolutely. I totally get it. But I just don't see Jed Hoyer making this trade knowing that they're not going to bring him back beyond 2025. I just don't see it with the way Jed Hoyer has operated in the last 4 years.
Jed's job is probably only in question if they don't make the playoffs. If Kyle Tucker doesn't have a good season, that's not going to be, and the Cubs make the playoffs, which seems like I don't know how those two things coexist, but if that were to happen, he's still going to be here.
Yeah.
If they make the playoffs, he's still going to be here. You're not going to fire the guy after he makes the playoffs. So he would have to have a bad season. He wouldn't get there. If Kyle Tucker goes out and hits 40 tanks and is in the MVP conversation, how are the Cubs going to look at their fan base and say, we aren't going to have the best offer for this dude? That's what I want. I know we're fast forwarding past a whole season of Cubs baseball, but as you watch the games this season, starting a week from today in Japan, watch every Kyle Tucker at bat and play he makes in right field. And if he is an MVP level guy, how could they tell you they're not going to outbid everybody else? I see people talking about the $600 million offer that Vlad Guerrero wants. I don't think Tucker's that, and I don't think he's asking for that. That
was over 15 years.
Yes, that's just an opinion. As for the suggested hypothetical extension of 11 years, 366, averaging $35 million a year, I'm telling you right now that if the Cubs see a great season from Kyle Tucker and they were somehow in the mix for that deal halfway through the season and said no, I would smash my head into a brick wall. That's how frustrated I would be because that would be such an affordable deal for a player of that caliber in what is now, today, Major League Baseball, whether you like it or not. Yes. If you don't, get rid of the team. Yep. That's the way baseball has gone.
That's the market.
That's a crazy affordable deal if he's a really good player. Now, if he's struggling, you can look at it and say, well, good thing they didn't do it. Fine.
That's in hindsight, though.
And that's in hindsight. If they play this out halfway through the season and he's an all-star and he's looking great, and somehow, under some miracle umbrella, he said to the team, I'll take 11, 366, and they were like, we're going to let you hit free agency where you're probably going to make $400 million, then I would just look at this franchise and say, what are we doing? No matter how successful they were this year, you would look at them and say, what are you doing?
That's what's so frustrating, though, right? Is because you're right. Jed is risk averse. And yet at the same time, at the end of every single season, he opines about not outperforming projections. And those two things do not mesh with me. So if you're talking about a guy like Kyle Tucker, who let's just say he's an all-star, let's say he leads him to the playoffs, we're talking about cost certainty. We're talking about track record and resume. It really doesn't get any more clean cut or airtight than that. And then it really turns into something else. And then you're asking the question, of the 11 years, $366 million, what are the Cubs most afraid of? Are they afraid of the 11 years? Yes. Are they afraid of the AAV? Are they afraid of the 366?
Yes, I think they're afraid of all three, which is why I don't think it will happen. But
I think they're more afraid of the years.
The 11 years scares them for sure. It does.
That is the number one thing that they're afraid about. I don't think it's the money. I really don't think it's the money.
I think Tom Ricketts said that before Cubs convention, that the years is the one that really gets them. In this hypothetical from Tim Britton, it would be you're including this year's deal, so the extension would really be 10 more years at $35 million a year. So it'd be like $350 million for the next 10 years. Yeah. Is that a lot of money? Yes, but it only puts them in the mix with what other teams have done. You're not even close. Right. Jason Hayward at $184 million. That wasn't even big 10 years ago necessarily, let alone for today.
And that was a projection signing. He didn't really have the track record that necessarily said he was worth that money. I would say that
it was expensive, but it wasn't like risking what teams are risking now to get a player. Like if you go back and look at, none of those teams regret it. Bryce Harper, you think the Phillies regret Bryce Harper?
No.
Absolutely not.
Padres regret Machado? No.
None of them do.
Yankees regret Garrett Cole. I mean, he's given them a bunch of great years. He's older now. He can have Tommy John, whatever.
The Cubs shouldn't be 42 on the list.
We all silly like the mayor.